Hey guys, Gundams here with a how-to build video. This is the first in a series of videos covering how I built certain customs. Before you is the Dom Cannon Unpainted. The reason why I'm doing the how-to build is, because people might see the Dom Cannon, especially after it's painted, and go, wow, I want to build one of those. What kind of parts did he use? And so that's kind of the purpose of this video. And thus, having it unpainted helps you see what parts they are. The Dom Cannon was based off the prototype Dom. Prototype Dom, basically, pretty basic. What makes the prototype Dom different is its legs, for the most part. Prototype Dom had legs like that. And anyways, some of the prototype Doms got turned into various configurations, like a Dom Tropical Test Type, and a Dom Cannon. Comparison with the normal Dom, you could see that there's major differences, particularly in the legs. And so, yeah, I actually suspect that the prototype Doms were much faster, but deemed overly fast? Who knows? So basically, even if you just wanted to build a Dom Test Type, or a Dom Tropical Test Type, this is what you would want to do. Things you're going to need. This front part comes from a new Gundam's funnel. Just the funnel that opens up. I had a spare lying around. Stole its part, glued it down, kind of bent it to the plastic. This is the front part of the Bolt Gundam's torso. Lower torso. Front part of lower torso of the Bolt Gundam. I cut it, and I glued it, and I bent it as I glued it to the shape of the body. And it took 2 Bolt Gundams to build this guy's legs, because obviously you need it on each side, but it's pretty cool. This comes from the back part of GPO2's boosters. This is just a G-Gun, or a Char's Counterattack booster from probably a Cune's Jagdoga. The arm guard, also knuckle guard, sometimes called. This is from a Shining Gundam, and I actually cut into this, and I used needle nose pliers to rip out the plastic, making it thinner in here so that it would go on. Once these are painted, I won't have them sticky tacked on, but for the time being, I have them sticky tacked on. The Dom's torso, you need to trim it. Get in there, like rip him in half, trim it. That way he can move. Don't trim the lower torso, trim the upper torso. That way it can move. Very important. Front chest plate, I cut straight down and cut off the Dom's chest. Then I glued on I cut down the plugins from the Maxter Gundam. I also cut the sides so that they weren't necessary. I filled in this area with epoxy sculpt, or epoxy putty. Epoxy putty here. You could remove these. I liked them as a detail, so I left them. This comes from the foot guard. You know, the foot guard that usually goes on a mobile suit. It comes from the foot guard of Bolt Gundam. So you'll need 2 of those. And then you cut them accordingly, so fill in with epoxy putty the difference. This just comes from a Goof mobile suit in action. Regular Dom head, new Gundam shoulders. You'll have to cut them. Cut them as straight as possible. If you want to build this missile pod, you have to use 2 Zaku 2 missile pods and cut the front off one of them and glue it onto the other one. It's kind of a terrible thing to do, but I really wanted to be accurate on this guy. Now, there's 2 types of Dom cannons. There's a double cannon, and then there's the less common single cannon. Now, the single cannon is slightly different than, say, the standard Zaku 2 cannon, but probably the same kind, basically, just slightly improved. It's kind of hard to find pictures of Dom cannons, so I decided to use the Zaku 2 cannon backpack. I cut the Magella top cannon off, the one that is originally on there, and then I took a Magella top cannon, cut off its handles, and glued it on. Removed its cannon and added the end of a ball cannon to give it that thicker, larger feel that better matches up to the picture. A double cannon would require much more work closest thing I could find was something from a Veritech, a small one. And but still, the Dom Cannon Double has like a ridiculously large backpack. It would be like 2 of these combined, and then extra stuff too. And I was just like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to build this backpack. And then I saw the single cannon, and I was like, that's going to have a different looking backpack. So I'm going to go with that one. I cut the Dom's backpack, I took the boosters off, cut the piece in the middle down, so it wasn't there anymore. And I took this piece, and I glued it on here, so that we can still store our beam saber blade there. We might keep it here, you know, that's another option. And for simplicity, I took the Zaku 2 backpack and cut it flat and then glued it on here after filling in the gaps with epoxy putty where the Dom's boosters had been. And I did that just so that I could put this on. I don't really know if the Dom Cannon has a backpack underneath its cannon backpack. I suspect that this is probably a permanent fixture. But I wanted mine to be a little bit more multi-purpose than that. You know, I've always thought if you're going to have this huge heavy cannon and you run out of ammo, imagine if you could just knock it off and, you know, like little charges, leave it behind, and then bam, Dom Tropical Test Type. Or, you know, Dom Test Type. Basically, the Dom Cannons were retrofitted Dom Test Types. The same for the Dom Tropical Test Type was a prototype, or I'm sorry, the Dom Cannon is a retrofitted prototype Dom. And, like I said, this also looks a lot like the Tropical Dom Test Type, because the Dom Tropical Test Type was also based off the Dom Prototype, whereas the mass production Doms are a bit different. It's kind of odd that they made the prototype ones into cannons. I would have made these guys into cannons, but these are probably faster, and they knew that they would need something faster for that purpose. Something heavier, could carry more weight. Well, that's the parts I used to build one. I also used one other last thing. I cut off the Dom's neck peg, and I drilled the hole bigger, and I took the shoulder joint from a burning Gundam and installed it into the Dom's neck by drilling a hole into the Dom's head and into the neck peg area. And so I'm giving him a little bit of looking around ability. That's it. That is what I used for this figure. And now you know. So if you want to build your own, go right ahead. Catch you guys later.